I'm joined by one of the leading greyhound owners in the industry, Billy Boyle. Thank you for talking to us, Billy. How are you doing?
Hi, Julie. Yeah, all good, thank you.
And as I mentioned to you before, I see you're still buying dogs. So the recent happenings with COVID and lack of being able to go racing hasn't put you off at all?
It has made me think twice, but it's in the blood, and we just can't help ourselves sometimes. So no, yeah, we're still buying. I don't know why, but we are.
I think it's in the blood as well to have a good bet on your dogs. And that's something that you have done this week. There's a dog called Hopes Bullet that you jointly own with Nick Gill, who we spoke to a little while ago. This is a new recruit for you. And well, you need to tell me about this dog because you've had a large bet, £700 each way at 80 to 1. So that would return about £71,000. So tell me about this dog, why you think he's a good Derby dog.
Yeah, it's more of a speculative wager than a confident one. At 80 to 1, you don't really need to have much of a bet to for the dividends to be quite substantial. And fair play to Star Sports for laying, it is a decent bet with a decent liability. I just feel with the Derby this year, I don't really want to be with anything at the top end of the Derby. English dog wise, and that's not being disrespectful, that's just how I see it. We're not so sure what's going to happen overseas. Having spoken to a lot of connections and trainers over there, I don't really see many of them travelling. That's the kind of consensus that I have. We know that the Derby this year is 50,000, which is it's fantastic. We know things are difficult and prize money they'd have to make cuts, and fair play to Ben and everyone else that's put the money up. We could be racing behind closed doors. We still don't really know. And I just can't see the Irish, from what I'm hearing, that actually coming over. So my hunch is that there'll be minimal Irish competitors. Of the English competitors, again, I'd happily take on a few of those at the top end. He's a young progressive dog. He's had 2 races in his life. He won his first race by 4 lengths, beating a bitch called Ballymat Juliet. He beat her 4 lengths, fair and square, come from behind her, took her off the second bend and won by 4. She subsequently came out her following race. I was in Shelbourne that night, and she won in a 28-23. And he beat her fair and square, and that's what drew kind of my eye to him on that occasion. He then ran the following week around Tralee, and he won by 11 lengths in I believe, a 28-67. They made the track, graded it at -10. Having spoken to a few of the lads that I know from the Tralee area, they believe it was a bit more slower than that. He's also young. I think I'm buying him from the right people in the sense of there's a bit more in him. There's an improvement in him. We can get him to marks. You've only got to find 4 or 5 lengths and you're in the mix at 80 to 1. I just thought it's worth a go. I can't see him being too much bigger. If he progresses at the rates that I think he might, he may be starting quite a bit shorter. Fingers crossed.
Well, he's not 80 to 1 now. Thanks to that bet. He's now 50 to 1 with Star Sports if you do want to have a bet on Hopes Bullet. Both those races you mentioned were at Tralee, and he is just a baby. He's a September 18, isn't he? So only just turned 2 in the last few days. So that alone, you would think he's entitled to show more. And he's well bred as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's terrifically well bred. He's down through a dog called Spoofer, who was a very fast pup in himself. He's out of Droopy's Jet. He's about 34.5 kilo. He's for me a typical 4-bend dog. He's got great early and middle. He's had the 3 trials for us now. A solo at Towcester at 16-13, which we was happy enough. He went to Nottingham and he did a 30-48, which again was an okay run, a bit off of where we wanted, but knowing what I know, he was going to come on a normal amount for fitness wise. I mean, he wasn't off his bed there for a month. And again, natural progression. He trialled there Monday night, won a mixed trial by 7 lengths in a 30-04. Again, another massive step up. He split to 3 quarters, was pretty comparable to the rest of the card. I do feel that he would come on a bundle fitness wise. I know Mark hasn't done an awful lot with him. We know the kennel there, he's gone through a tough time, Mark, with the COVID and everything else. And I'm confident that within the next month, we're going to see the kennel there peaking. Mark's had a lot of young dogs in the kennel. And when you've got young dogs and you're at a routine and they could bring little viruses and it's kind of unsettled the routine ever so slightly. So I'm expecting Mark to be really firing, in a month's time, and that would be absolutely tailor-made perfect for this dog.
Okay, it's one that I'm definitely going to watch with interest, that's for sure. Hopes Bullet there for the Star Sports Derby. A bit of news as well on Antigua Jet. Of course, we spoke to Nick a little while ago, and he wasn't completely convinced that the dog would go to Nottingham. And I think there's some more recent news on Antigua Jet, isn't there?
Yeah, he was a dog with tremendous amount of potential as a pup. I think he did a 21:02 Dundalk in his second ever race, and he got to the Puppy Derby final, getting beaten by the likes of New Taylor, Ballymac in speed, and they're at the head of our derby. So people obviously maybe think natural progression would be that we'd be in there. But we see the dog more than an early pace four-bend type, and I just can't fathom him seeing out the 500 metres strongly enough, and it probably wouldn't be fair on the dog in general. And I've had a chat with Mark and Nick there yesterday, and the plan is to lay him out for the Henlow Maiden Derby, which it runs alongside the Derby, and a 460 at Henlow would probably be more practical for his style of racing.
Okay, so anybody thinking of having an anti-post bet Antigua Jet, he won't be going to Nottingham. But another one that will for you is a dog called Surprise Me Now. Another one that isn't too old, just June 2018. And I literally can't find any form for this dog. So why have you bought this one?
This is actually purchased by Nick. He's a great supporter of the sport. He's desperate to have some Derby dogs. We got a phone call there after he trialled in a trial before racing at Shelbourne. He did a 29. Let me think now. It's written down 29:32 at Shelbourne over the 550. That was in racing before the third round of the Derby. On the night itself, Pestana went round in a 29:15, New in Taylor 29:15, a 29:11. Had we those kind of dogs lined up, they'd be you're probably looking at 5 or 6 to 1 kind of market leaders. The section was a 3:38, an 03:38. Pestana's was an 03:32, so he's only 6 spots down on the split on the sectional. He split to 3/4 was a 13:97 compared to a 13:90 from Pestana. Now we know what he's about. He was only a couple of lengths off of him at that clock. He's a fast dog. His overall form wouldn't be as comparable to his trials. He trialled the week before and did a 28:20 at Shelbourne. Now, we all know Shelbourne's running well, but at the same time, there's fast dogs running around there, and you don't get bad dogs around there. And we have a good kind of gauge with what he did compared to what the Derby dogs did on that night. And again, he's very, very favourable in terms of how he went. If those, like I said, those type of dogs did line up at Nottingham, they would be in single figures. He opened up with Star Sports at 66s, and myself and Nick have had a nice bet. Even at 50s, he's very unexposed, and could be that type of dog in there that might just have that class edge. And at 50s, I still think he's quite good value. I know Nick's going to put a name change into Hopes Doggie. So that's to be looked out for, but I'm sure if you back him with the name he is, Star Sports will sort that out quite easily anyway. So
Yeah, of course.
he's definitely one to keep an eye out for. He's having he's be trialing in now, get qualified, and again, he's definitely one of those unexposed dogs that could end up doing something quite special. Fingers crossed.
So your two anti-posts are quite similar prices, Hopes Bullet and Surprise Me Now. For those who do want to have a bet, which one would you be siding with at the moment?
It's a difficult one. Maybe for me, the Hopes Bullet dog could be the more progressive of the two. At the moment, you'd probably fair to say the Surprise Me Now would be the faster of the two. My belief is that the Hopes Bullet dog will come on and continue to come on. I know, when Mark gets his magic hands on that dog, I always tend to say to people, give Mark 3 months of a dog and you'll find a good chunk of him. And he's just now doing his trials pretty much off of his bed. And once Mark gets a bit of work with him, I think he could be that type that could be quite progressive and carries on qualifying. He's got a nice touch of early pace and middle pace, and the two trials he's had for me there, he was paddling coming home, and I think he sees it out better. It's just more of a fitness angle, and he'd be coming to the ball quite nicely once the Derby starts. So there wouldn't be a lot in it. They're both big prices. Neither of them, are certainties, but at that sort of prices, I think that's where I'd be looking at the kind of market if I was to be punting anti-post, and that's what I've done. There's not a lot of value at that top end for me, and I'd rather be a layer at that top end than a player, in all honesty.
Of course, Billy, many people will remember you, much coverage of your 2018 exploits in the Star Sports Derby. You got 2 through to the final, Bruisers and Bombers Bullet. I mean, I remember the passion coming from you that night, and all owners want to get their dogs through to the Derby final, but you absolutely loved every minute, didn't you?
Yeah, well, that was some experience, and it's something special that lived with me forever. We had a great 2 years around Towcester. We had a Bruisers Bullet. He got knocked out in the semi-final as a young pup, and that year we had them crazy temperatures. You know, we was hitting 38, 39 degrees, and he was a young big dog, and it did take a lot out of him. But then he come out and annihilated the consolation field in a quicker time than the Derby itself, and probably therein was his chance of winning it. I felt that year he was good enough and probably the fastest in that Derby that year. We did return the following year. He was a bit older, probably lost half a yard to the bend, but that, you know, he was coming home like a train, and he got to the final. And then we had Bombers, and you know, he started his racing off in A6s at Towcester, and you know, such a game little dog for us he was. And, you know, winning that 3rd round when he flew past Bubbly Bluebird, and to have them both line up in the final and to share that, you know, with friends and family. We had a couple of coaches come down with support, and it was that week build up was something special. And as an owner, it's, you know, it's something that's really magical. And I think every owner out there would love to have that experience. And listen, we all love to win, but that was something we was in there with a chance.
Yeah, everybody wants to make the Derby final, but actually that week, obviously I'm a part of it from a media point of view, it really does live up to expectations. How much would you love to get a finalist this year?
Oh, desperate. Just loved it. Loved the sport. Always loved the sport. This is the pinnacle of, you know, why we own, and that's why it's so important that we have people like Ben that support, you know, our sport, continue to put their hand in their pocket. In you know, let's face it, in difficult times, there's not many people there, you know, knocking the wall down to sponsor competitions. And again, he's stepped up, massive ambassador for our sport. And, you know, we need people like Ben, and because this is why we're all involved. And, you know, let's face it, without owners and without greyhounds, there isn't a sport. So it's, you know, it's very, very special.
Well, I was going to say, well done to people like you continuing to put their hands in their pocket to buy these greyhounds as well. So we've got Hopes Bullet, and surprise me now, will be called Hopes Doggie, did you say?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
Interesting name.
That's after Nick. Yeah, that's after Nick's daughter. He come up with the idea, so hopefully we'll have 2 Hopes running in the Derby for us and for Nick. And you know, if we get that bit of luck and we get one in the final, then I'm sure she'll be there on the night supporting them both.
Oh, lovely. Listen, I think definitely ones for us to follow going forward, that's for sure. It could be a lot of progress to come from both of them, and exciting greyhounds to watch. Billy, thank you so much for talking to us, and I will look forward to hopefully seeing you at Nottingham.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Definitely, I'll be there. Thank you.